So that was my thing. How can I get the results that I want to get? There has to be an easier way without having to spend every single waking hour in the gym. And that's what I did. So I finally kind of, quote unquote, cracked the code with it and figured it out, that there was an easier way. But along the way, what I had discovered was that a lot of the things that were being told, certain foods that were being told to eat, diets were being recommended, strategies were being told to do, exercise programs, the way that we're being told, a lot of it is misinformation. And that's what we're going to learn about today is some of the things I'm going to talk about. So what you're going to discover, why calorie counting, eating low carbs and low fat dieting is a massive, massive mistake. That's one of the things that I figured out. It really is a huge mistake, but it's something we're being told to do. Any and all of these strategies. There's healthy foods that fitness and nutrition experts across the board are recommending that we eat to lose weight, to reduce body fat, and make us healthy. The problem is that a lot of these foods are actually doing the opposite, making it harder for us to lose weight, making us gain weight, making us sick, causing inflammation. And we'll talk about what those are today. Why your current workout is actually keeping you fat. It's keeping you from losing weight. A lot of the workout strategies that we're doing, particularly the cardio. And I'll talk about how that's happening and what you can do instead. I'm also going to talk about the #1 thing that's sabotaging your efforts to lose weight. And it has nothing to do with diet or exercise. This is one thing that you can have the best diet and exercise program on the planet. Without this, you'll find a way to sabotage it no matter what. And then also how to unlock the secret to unstoppable motivation. If you've ever had the desire to start something, or you've been on an exercise program and for some odd reason you can't stick with it, you're up and down, you're good for a week or a month, and then for some reason you stop, you just can't seem to get the motivation to go anymore. I'm going to talk about exactly what you can do to overcome it. So by the time that we're done with this presentation, you're going to have a 4-step process you can use, and you'll have all the motivation that you've ever needed. And then finally, how to find an exercise program that will help you lose fat and get in great shape fast. How to know if a nutritional strategy is going to work best for you, and how to create rapid fat loss results in 28 days or less without spending a penny. So again, that's usually, oh, okay, what's he selling? Look, I'm giving it away, basically. I'm not selling anything. So I kept telling people that. I go, why aren't they coming? Oh, he's going to sell something. So they're lost. So first thing we look up, hopefully you can see it. I'll point it out a bit, but you can do this at home. I just Googled it. If you Google the term fat loss, this is why it's so confusing. This number, 43,200,000 results. That's part of the problem. Where do we look for information now? We look on the internet. So you Google in fat loss. You Google in weight loss, it's even more than that. So in looking at that, if you've got 43 million results that come up for fat loss, how do you know who to believe? Who do you trust? What's good information? What's misinformation? And there's no laws on the internet. Anybody can get up there and post information now. So you're kind of gambling with what's going on. And that's part of the problem. We're just information overload. We're so overwhelmed with all of these solutions. And it's funny because you go into Barnes & Noble, and I did this, I was telling the group in Tracy, I recently worked with 40 of their employees over there and did a weight loss program. And one of the weekends, my wife and I went over to the mall, and Tracy went to see a movie. And I always go into Barnes & Noble because I'm a bookworm. And I always check out like the diet section to see what's new out there. And it just seems to be growing all the time. It's like these books here are nothing. You go in the diet section and all of the books, oh my God, it's just like information overload. So we've got all of these solutions that are there to help us lose weight, but what's happening in reality? We've got a bigger weight epidemic in the United States than ever. So you think with all the solutions on the market that the problem should be getting better, but it's getting worse. So where does that leave us? What's the problem? The problem is that most of the programs that are out there, we've got them all. They all have a solution for the same thing, weight loss or body fat reduction. But they're all a little bit different, right? They're all strategies. They're all different. What do you see in a bookstore? The low-carb diets. You see the low-fat diets, the organic food diets, the liquid diets, cabbage soup diets, and raw food, high glycemic, low glycemic, whatever it is, you got a million of them. Which one works? That's the problem, but they all work to a degree, but the problem is that they don't work for very long, and they don't work for everybody. What they are is they're just a bunch of strategies that you can use, but there's a problem with strategies that we'll talk about, because losing fat, really, it's not about strategies. It's about working with proven principles. So strategies versus principles, what's the difference? I describe it like this. Strategies are, they're simply like pieces in a puzzle. You know, when you get one of those little bazillion piece puzzles and you dump them all on the floor and you scatter all those pieces, they're like the pieces of the puzzle. And if you put that down there, you try and put the puzzle together, but you don't look at the picture on the box. If you didn't have it, it's going to be almost impossible to put that puzzle together. You can't figure out how those pieces fit. But when you work with the principles are like the picture on the box. You put the picture up there, and you can see how it all fits together. Oh, now I know how to put it together. So if you've just got the strategies, but you don't have the principles, the strategies over the long term, they're not going to be very effective for you. And a lot of them just fail. So if we're talking about strategies, then the question is, what are strategies? What are we talking about? So it's kind of like looking in the bookstores. Anything like calorie restriction, low carb, high carb diets, low fat, no fat, those type of things that we see. Those are the strategies. And you'll know a strategy because they're always changing, right? It's always something different. One week it's low carb, another week it's cabbage soup again, another week it's this, right? There's always changing. Principles, on the other hand, because they're principles, they're proven to work. They don't change. They're constant. And with principles, you have predictable, consistent results that you'll get over time. So we look at some of the strategies, the popular strategies. Number one, calorie restriction. It's the most common weight loss method. Why? Because it makes sense when we hear about it. What's the theory behind calorie reduction? Well, it goes like this. If we want to lose weight, we need to burn more calories than we eat. It makes sense. If we have more energy going out than we got putting in, we should have a weight loss, right? So it sounds logical, and it's based on the idea that that's all weight loss boils down to. Calories in versus calories out, boom. So what happens with the calorie restriction, right? When you take calories away and you're burning more than you're taking in, you have a deficit, that's what they call a calorie deficit. So the calorie deficit, according to nutrition and fitness experts, is like the holy grail of weight loss. But if a consistent calorie deficit is maintained over time, then we should see predictable, consistent weight loss across the board, right? On end. So for example, a pound of fat, we know a pound of fat is 3,500 calories, right? So if I have a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories, I should lose 1 pound of fat, and as long as I maintain that deficit. So let's take a look at how it plays out, real life scenario. We've got typically people that will start a weight loss program. And in the beginning weeks, what happens? Well, they watch their calories, they're probably doing some exercise, and the weight's coming off. Everything's great. And then it isn't too long, maybe a few weeks after, or a month after or so, and they might still be losing some weight, but it starts to slow down a bit. It's not quite like it was in those initial weeks. And then they come to the point where they hit the plateau. Everything stops. I'm stuck. Okay, well, the obvious answer then is if I reduce my calories and created a deficit, then I probably just have to create a bigger deficit, and it'll get started again. And that's what they do. They create a bigger deficit, weight loss kicks in again, but not quite the same as it was in those initial weeks. And they go on with it, and then again they get stuck. And it's this cat and mouse game all the time. Lose weight, get stuck, lose weight, get stuck, until what happens? They get stuck to a point where no matter how much exercise they try and do, or how much they try and reduce their calories, the weight loss isn't moving. And it gets to a point where if you've ever been through it yourself, I know because I've done it as well, where you get stuck no matter what, and you're working so hard, you're trying to do more exercise, you're trying to eat less, and you're struggling just to maybe lose another pound or two. And it doesn't take long before you're just trying to maintain what you've got, and you're doing all of this work. So again, if we're constantly reducing the calories and we're bumping up the exercise to maintain the same calorie deficit, why aren't we losing the same amount of weight? It doesn't work. It doesn't play out that way. So we want to understand, why is that happening? Well, here's the truth about calories. We have to look at 6 big points that I've discovered with it. Number one, and I'll ask you guys this, would you agree that from everything that we know, that there's a difference in terms of the nutrients that we eat? So I'll use, for example, carbohydrates. Would you agree that there's a difference in the types of carbohydrates and the health results or the fat loss results we get between eating good carbs and bad carbs, quote unquote, right? There's a difference. Same thing with fats. We know, okay, our unsaturated fats are our healthy ones. And if we eat most of our fats from those sources, we'll probably get a lot better results than if we have like pizzas and french fries and hamburgers, right? We know all those trans fats and the saturated fats we heard about are the bad news. But get this, if we understand that there's a difference with nutrients, well, it doesn't change the calories though. Because carbohydrates, every gram of carbohydrate, whether it's good or bad, it still contains the same amount of calories, 4 calories per gram. And the same thing with fat. Each gram of fat contains 9 calories per gram. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. So the point that I'm getting to then is all calories are not created equal. We get different results based on the types of food that we're putting in our bodies. So we cannot assume that all calories are equal, and if they're not equal, then weight loss can't just boil down to calories, right? Second thing, our calorie needs. So here's another thing. If we think about it, in order to burn energy, that we need to lose weight, we have to have energy in the first place. If it's like a bank account. If we just keep withdrawing and burning energy, and we run out of it, we're not going to be doing a whole lot anymore. Our body's going to shut down, right? Our metabolism shuts down. We've got to have some energy coming in. Now, our energy needs, would you agree that our energy needs would change depending on things like our physical activity? Right? If I'm laying around on the couch all day on a Sunday, watching football on TV, I probably don't need to refuel as much energy in my body as if I'm going out on an all-day bike ride or a hike up a mountain somewhere, right? So our energy needs, they can and they do change daily, they change weekly, they change monthly. If we think about it, it's more than just activity level. How much muscle we have versus how much fat changes how much energy that we need. Our hormones will change how much energy we need. Our hydration level will change. And it's always a constant flux. But what is the low calorie diets, what do they recommend? A target number we're always shooting for, a certain amount of calories. Well, it makes it very inaccurate because our needs are always changing. There is no one.